Hi guys, Ray here from City Fan TV, and I'm joined by the dethroned Bernard Dineen. If you watched it yesterday, he was wearing the crown on his head, but now he's not walking tall now. 2 days after the a 4-timer. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I just, of course, some people will know that officially on my birth certificate, my first name's Charles, but I've never used it, and my parents never used it. So obviously, I was doing the King Charles bit, wasn't I, yesterday, with my crown on my head. So there you go. I don't know if I'd be happy with that portrait he got done though. I know there's been a bit of Mickey taking with City and Klopp and various things been put on it since, but that was an unusual portrait, getting away from football to say the least, wasn't it? Really.
Well, that's unusual. That's a polite way of saying ugly. And if it had been pig ugly, it'd have been his missus. Boom! Anyway, let's move on. Let's drag the tone back up. Let's talk about the champions. We're here, guys. We're here to talk about a quick season review. Although the season hasn't finished, but we'll look at the league season and then go through some player ratings. I think Bernard's done his own on his own channel, on the Citizen channel. But I'm going to go through some of mine and have a little chat.
It's not out yet, but I want to make all the information I've got. I don't want to sell anything short. You know what I mean? Because I've got that much information. I want to make sure I've covered all the bases.
Yeah. See, I'm not as a professional like you.
If I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. You know, all right. Some people might get turned off by it, but if I'm going to do something, I want to do it as best as I can.
Absolutely. Let's do it. So let's get into this. It's a review of the season. Obviously, as I said, we've got the FA Cup to come. So my question to you is, Bernard, at what point in the season did you believe? What point did you believe?
Oh, dear me.
And I'll surprise you with what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, obviously, it's like we're always I try and be more positive than I used to be in the old days, and that's the way to be now. Although it's not worth trying to be negative and look at the good side. But I had incredibly serious doubts. I think, I mean, a lot of people talk about that Oscar Bob game when KDB came back in January has been a big turning point. Of course, my man of the match, only on 20 minutes, wasn't he, KDB? But he totally turned that game around. And against, all right, not Newcastle, who were, probably they've flattered to deceive this season, of course, in and out. But I mean, that was important. But when you start drawing games against the Arsenal, and they're happy with a 0-0, and we can slag them all we want. I mean, as far as a result, that was a good result for them, and it wasn't a very good result for us. So that wasn't that long ago, was it? And you had to have serious doubts, and it became relying on one or two teams to do Arsenal, and it happened. And of course, it is going to happen every season. We had a fantastic run, of course. What last 9 was it? We won on the trot, on the bounce in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. We were never ever firing. I don't, there's very few games you could say we were really at it throughout the season, and I thought it was outstanding by Pep. I thought Pep stepped up probably more towards the end of this season than he has in other seasons. He seemed to make we criticise him, of course we do. We're always got to do that because that's what. But I thought it was superb. Of course, the only blot on the landscape was the Champions League. But honestly, I think if we progress in the Champions League, it might just diluted the Premier League. So at the end of the day, we all say we want the Premier League more than the Champions League. So I think Pep played a blind us. But I will say that Newcastle game with KDB coming back, but there's lots and lots of doubts. But once we went on that run and Arsenal let it slip, with Villa, was it? Villa took points off them.
Yeah.
Once it was in our own hands, I had confidence. But that's really the only time I was 90% confident this season, I think.
Okay. I mean, I'll tell you, when I had some confidence, and you might think, what am I on about? It was after the first few games of the season. Now, you might think I'm talking daft, okay? But if I'm right, we won the first six league games. We beat Burnley, all right, night to shout about. We beat Newcastle at home in the league, beat Sheffield United away, and we didn't know Newcastle wouldn't be firing. We beat Fulham at home 5-1. West Ham away 3-1. Forest at home 2-0. Ignore the Champions League, which we were winning, and the EFL, where we lost against Newcastle. First game we lost was at the end of September. So up to that point, I didn't think we played well. But I just thought, if we've won 6, it was when we'd won 6 games. I thought, if we've won 6 out of 6, surely we can't throw it away from here. If we're going to, and we hadn't been playing well, and I thought eventually we would get better, we would play better. I didn't think it'd carry on for ages that we weren't going to play so well. So then I was thinking, we've got a good chance. Not we've got this, because it's 6 games, it's too early, but we've got a good chance here if we can improve the way we play. We didn't. And then when did I believe again? Very late on. I've got to be honest. It was late. It was even when it was back in our own hands when Arsenal had lost to Villa. I still didn't believe, because we had that Spurs game. That was the game that after that game, after Ortega Moreno's save, then I started to believe. In the second goal, that's when I started to believe. Now, some people might say, I'm not backing my team and everything else, but I am backing the team, because I also said that City have that ability to go on that run, and we ground it out, which puzzles me, because why couldn't we grind out other times of the season? Why can't we grind it out? Why do we always leave it till the last 6, 7, 8 games? But it took me a while to get that belief back, because it was never in our hands. And Arsenal, I think, are made of sterner stuff than they were last season. The fact they got to 89 points rather than they're on 84 last season, I think, shows to me that they are a bit better mentally. So it took me a long time, but obviously we fell over the line. Were you satisfied with the season? I mean, yes, overall we won it, but it's been ups and downs. It finished on a high. It started on a high because we won 6 games, and it finished on a high. Does that give you confidence for next season, or do you worry that we're still leaking goals?
Yeah, I do worry, but I'm more interested to see what happens in the transfer market. In fairness, I think there's still got hungry players there. We've got 3 or 4 players who perhaps haven't quite had the opportunity or done it this season, who will be hoping to do much better next season. There's a lot of hints about Paqueta today, isn't there? I've seen a couple of posts about him definitely coming. Obviously, we usually get our business sorted pretty early, so hopefully we'll know within the next 2, 3, 4 weeks what that's looking like. Of course, we're not going to know what Pep's doing until next season. He's already said that. We're not going to hear anything unless he drops a bombshell, as you said, after the FA Cup final.
Yep.
But so I'm happy at the moment. I'm happy. I don't think Liverpool will be much. Liverpool are going to be interested how Liverpool cope next season.
Yeah.
I can't see Arsenal dropping off. I mean, I know you were a bit. I think you might perhaps change your mind a little bit. I think you were a bit negative about what they might do next season. I'm still fairly sure City and Arsenal are going to be the team. I'm not worried about Chelsea now. They just keep shooting themselves in the foot, don't they? They're just absolutely ridiculous what's going on there. So again, it's City and Arsenal, and if Liverpool do anything, it will be a big surprise. But you never know. You never know, depending on the manager, of course, how he copes.
You're not scared of Crystal Palace?
The form team, no. Yeah, credit to them, mate. But it's easy to get a nice run up at the end of the season, because you're playing some teams that are switched off on the beach, struggling. Yeah. It doesn't mean much being a form team for the last, unless you're one of the top teams like us, of course, it doesn't mean a lot. And all credit to Palace, because I say they needed a change from that poor old man that they got rid of eventually. They needed something a little bit different, and hopefully for their fans, they've got a glimpse of something to come.
Yeah, if they can keep the players. But I actually think it is important how you finish your season, because look at Leicester City. When they staved off relegation, they had a really good finish to the season. I think they won 7 and drew 2 out of the last 10 games, and whatever it was, and they carried that forward to the following season. I overall agree with you. Liverpool need a time or a period of consolidation. I think the general consensus is they did better this season than people expected. But have you not forgotten that Liverpool won, was it 9 out of the last 10 games last season, almost made it in Champions League? So they did finish quite well. So they had a good start in the off point. I think for Liverpool, it depends who they lose.
I think a lot of teams have struggled with injuries this year as well, haven't they? Not just we've had our own, but of course a lot of teams, even United, have struggled. And I don't know why. I don't know if there's any reason for that. It's not just one or two teams. It seems to be every team's had a big chunk of injuries.
Yeah. There'll be lots of different reasons that people might project out there, but I couldn't put my finger on one. So overall, I'm happy with the season. You know, when we were drawing games, that's my biggest frustration. When we drew at home to Liverpool, Palace, Spurs, Chelsea, games we should be winning. I mean,
the fact we weren't making the most of games we were winning. We weren't scoring enough goals. That was the problem as well.
Yeah. We ended up with the most goals in the season.
Yeah.
Most goals scored, but obviously we let in a few more as well. So yeah. Overall, obviously, we won the league. You can't complain. So that's a quick review of the season. We're going to have a quick review of the players now. I don't think we're going to go into any massive detail about them. We'll have another, and we'll also include a video I was going to do tomorrow. But we'll chuck it in here, and whether you'd keep those, basically whether you keep the players or sell them. So, start with the goalkeepers. Edison, marks out of 10 for Edison. What do you think? How did he do?
I think considering the problem with injuries, which he's had, which is very unusual for me, from nowhere all of a sudden, I thought he had one of his best seasons. Definitely. And I think that's because the unit, Ortega and Edison, have pushed each other and they've improved each other, I believe. And hopefully, reading between the lines, there's hinting that Edison might go to Saudi now, but certainly hinting that Ortega's happy, even if he is still number 2. That's the rumour I'm getting from that. So all well and good, because I thought both keepers were tremendous.
I totally agree. I mean, Edison, I think, had a good season, and Ortega Moreno never let us down. You know, you called off the bench. It's not easy. It's not easy coming off the bench, making the saves he did. I've always said, you know, a couple of times last season, we thought, he's a bit sloppy, you know, with his passing. He's not as good as Edison. But I've always also said he hasn't played. He needs some game time. And we've now seen him play a few more. I mean, last season he played 13 games. This season he's featured in 19, and Saturday will be his 20th. And give him more game time, he will get better. You just need that. Can you give us some marks out of 10 for each of the keepers then? I'll give you mine.
You want me to be consistent, don't you? So it's not going to be giving you a mark and I get a totally different mark when I do my little thing. But of course, Edison, he came out, believe it or not, me and the Evening News was spot on the same score, which is the only time it happened, 6.64.
Wow. Oh, you're giving him?
Yeah.
I was going to give him an 8.
No, that's well. Don't forget that 6 is the basis probably, and that's above average performances all the time. So allowing for the odd 6, the odd Rick, that's what it sort of ends up with.
All right, so I think you set the base, because I thought you'd be at least 7.5, 8.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, my because I'm very critical, as you know, mate. My highest is only just over 7, so there you go. But this is based on the season stats. I mean, if you told off the top of my head, I'd probably give them slightly higher. But I'm going on the basis of what I've stuck with all season.
Okay, because you've been giving the max all season, whereas I'm just going to go off the top of my head because I haven't been doing.
It's absolutely different. It's totally different. I fully understand it, because it's my little thing's a bit more different to what you do. If you asked me now and I hadn't done this, I'd be coming up with totally different marks.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I'm thinking about the last 10 games also where we've done the business. So I'm going to give him a 7.5.
Yeah, I mean, Ortega actually, even though obviously he didn't qualify for my final players because he didn't play enough, got a 7, so he got more than Edison.
Yeah, I'm going to give Ortega Moreno an 8 because, as I said, coming off the bench, he didn't let us down. That same against Spurs, crucial, absolutely crucial. I'm going to give him an 8. Let's look at the defenders, rattle through these then. Manu Akanji.
He was a funny one for me, wasn't he, man?
It was
I
mixed.
thought he'd do. I thought he'd do better because I thought he was incredibly consistent. He's not ended up very high up my listing. He just about made the top 10, and he came out with similar again for the Manchester Union News, about 6.55.
See, the thing is,
It was a consistency, I think, with Akanji. He was consistent without being spectacular or
most of the time,
outstanding. He was just so consistent.
I think obviously it's helped him that he was fit this season because Johnny Stones wasn't. And
he started 28 games and he came on a sub twice.
Yeah, so that's pretty fit for me.
I mean, this is the Premier League. I'm only doing the Premier League. I've not looked at I do the others separately anyway.
I wasn't sure he plays as many games because I think he dropped off a bit last season.
He started 28 games and 2 as subs, which is more than I thought, but I've verified that. That's
no.
Right.
I mean, I think he played more than I was expecting at the start of the season because I thought his form dropped off. He started off the first half of last season really well. And
excellent, and then it was a bit of a dip, and then excellent again,
Because for me, it was always, and then we got Gvardiol, and we played Gvardiol left back, and I was thinking, well, Aki and Stones, they're our best two. But Akanji stepped up and he's done all right. I'm going to be generous because I'm in Champions winning mood. So I'm going to give 7.5 to Manu Akanji. A few mistakes, but overall, very, very good. Nathan Ake, I know you like Nathan Ake.
I do like Nathan Ake. Yeah, I love Nathan Ake, but he's not. I don't think he's done. How many games he's played? Have you got it there? Let me just.
No, I don't look at things like that.
They're not in alphabetical order, these, so I have to go through my rankings.
I know.
I mean, 2 goals, 2 assists. That wasn't bad. He started 24 games, 5 sub appearances. Again, consistent, even though he did have a relatively injury-free season. It's just that Pep didn't start him very as often.
I think he had a couple of nicks.
He could have done, yeah.
I think he had a couple of nicks.
I've come up with if I round it down, 6.7 for his season. He's one of my top half a dozen. Put it that way.
I'll give him a 7.5. I'm going to give a lot of 7s and halves. I think today I'm going to give him a 7.5. I think he had another good season. He fits in really, really well, and he does what he needs to do most of the time. He had a couple of stinkers, I think, but he was done all right. Ruben Diaz.
Ruben Diaz just about made me top 10. Very good and very poor is the impression I got from Ruben this season. A bit of a mixed bag. He didn't have too many forgettable games. I think the worst one I've got down was that 4-4 draw at Chelsea.
That was a bad game.
Yeah, back in November. That was his worst. But he's just got about 6 points, just over 6.5, 6.6. He's worked out for me.
I'm going to give him a 7. I think he was all right. Like you say, a couple of bad games. Gomez, he didn't play, so I'm not going to give him anything. Same as
I think Gomez will be a bit flustered this season. He didn't really get any real chance. He didn't let us down when he did get minutes, but no, he'll be very disappointed, I think, with what he did this season.
He would like to play more. Same as Rico Lewis. I think he played fewer games this season than the season
before.
Well,
he started 8. He was subbing 8. He was subbed on in 8 games as well, and he did have poor games. He had a couple of really poor games. I think he'll be disappointed that Pep's not made any. I think he's one of these guys that could end up leaving.
Yeah. Not yet, but I think he's a City fan.
Underutilised, and when he did play, I didn't think, wow, why is he not playing more?
Yeah. Well, the season before we did. But the thing for him is obviously is game time. He's been here for 2 years.
Yeah. 2 years. I think he played a few more last year, didn't he, than he did this year?
In the league, he had 14 appearances last year, 16 this year.
Only 8 starts this year. Yeah,
that's it. It's the starts that I think. I think he had a run last season. We had a good run of starts, and he played more FA Cup. He played the same. He played 23 games last season. 27.
A lot of these guys had some FA Cup and League Cup and Champions. Well, the odd Champions League appearance.
But I mean, it depends how you look at it. You think the kid's only 19 years old.
Yeah. Yeah,
and he's played.
Still rated okay. I mean, just under 6.5 for me. He still did okay.
Yeah, he's 19 years old. He's played 52 games for City.
Yeah,
not bad.
Yeah. And he's got room to. Of course, he can keep improving. As you say,
Yeah.
he's not even fully developed yet, has he? As a man.
Yeah.
Never mind a footballer.
Absolutely. Josh Wilson-Esban, not going to talk about him. I think he had one game, one or two.
He's not even on my list. He didn't play, did he?
He's in the squad. Okay, let's go to some people who did. Josko Gvardiol. Now,
our favourite player.
If I remember correctly, you slated him all season long. I said, give him time. I said, give him time, he'll come good.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate, it wasn't in my top 10.
Yeah, well, if you look at the first 28 games of the season, it won't be in anybody's top 10.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the last half a dozen, he probably would be way up there. But he started okay, and then he so in and out for me and like you when we thought he was playing in the wrong position.
Yeah,
and he's just totally impressed, of course, the last few games, and that's a good sign going obviously into next year.
Yeah, look, he's only 22 years old. That is very, very encouraging because, like you said, at the start of the season, I don't think he was that good at the start of the season. He was okay. And it's sad.
Yeah, it took time to sort of get a decent level, didn't he? That was the thing, yeah.
Yeah. But it took time, but also we're being harsh because the kid was 21 when he arrived. Yeah. But he had such a good World Cup and such a good...
The first good performance I had him down as was the Spurs game at home, even though we drew it. I thought that was the first game where he looked something a little bit different, a little bit better.
See, what worried me was Pep kept playing him on the left and as an attacking left back, and sometimes towards the end of the season as a left winger. And the worry was he wasn't showing enough for me. He didn't dribble. He didn't cross. He just got the ball, passed it, and I thought, what's the point? Absolutely, there's no point. But then he started scoring goals. Then he started being a bit more adventurous. And suddenly he's blossomed in the last few games into a quality left-sided player.
And he's loving it. He's loving it. You can tell from his body, how he is. He's loving it and enjoying himself.
I think so. And considering his age, considering it's his first season, considering he's playing semi out of position, I think he's done all right. Even though, if you'd asked me 10 games ago, he'd be getting a 6 from me, I think. But now I'm going to give him...
He got just under 6.5 from me anyway.
Yeah. He's getting a 7.5 from me because I think the way he's finished the season, for his age and everything else, first season, I'm really pleased with what he's achieved. Johnny Stones?
Well, a bit of an enigma this season, hasn't he? He didn't obviously get enough games to qualify for my top 14, if you like, that he ended up with. But just not given the chance. He started 12 games. He started 12. He was subbed on in 4, and he still got a reasonable rating here, almost 6.7 from me. So he did well in what he did, but he's been underutilised and, of course, picked up little niggles and problems all season, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he's done all right, but the fact is he's not played the last 4 or 5 games. He's been sat on the bench.
He was outstanding at Old Trafford. You remember that 3-0 win at Old Trafford, but after that, you're sort of struggling to find standout games. Really,
I still think he's our best defender when he's fit and he's had a run of games. So I think he's a mixed bag. So I'll give him a 7. I think the mixed bag from him. And in defence, we've still got Kyle. Kyle, pull your pants down. Walker, who was leaving last summer, and now he stayed, and now he's had a good season. What do you reckon?
Well, I don't think he's had a good season as last season. It's surprised he started 30 games. I'm surprised by that many. He was subbed on in a couple. Again, just so like he is most seasons. When you think you don't need him, you need him, and then when he's playing, you think, we don't really need him again. And he's, of course, I've heard rumours that he's going to be okay staying next season. Don't know where that's come from, but I've seen something being said. And I can accept that. But again, not as good as last season, but it wasn't a disaster, was it? Let's be honest about it. He got just over 6 from me, so bog standard, but
Yeah.
Lost a bit of pace. Been carrying an injury apparently, hasn't he, as well? So might be part and parcel of it. Age catching up with him.
The worry for me about Walker is he's still got the pace, but far too often, again, he's out of position. He's out attacking when they're busting down on his side, and he can blame somebody else for that. But for losing the ball, because that's usually what happens. He's charging forward, someone loses the ball, and then he's out of position.
I think he got about 4 assists for the season, from 3 or 4 assists. That's all.
But the thing that frustrates me is he gets in so many good positions, and he's so wasteful. There were some games that I remember us complaining about him for this very thing, and then the next game he goes and puts in a cross, and we score when we needed it. But that's my frustration. If you're going to be there, if you're going to be marauding down the right hand side and not allowing Bernardo to come in the middle, you got to put better crosses in. You got to make use of that ball.
I think it was Brighton away, but that was late in the season, of course. In the end of April, he made a couple of assists. That if he'd done that a few more times,
yeah. And it's in games. It's always the frustration is it's in games that matter. In games that matter, you need, when you got that early chance, stick it away, because it means that a team that's ultra defensive has to change. If they want something out of the game and we're 1-0 up, they have to change their approach. And getting the early goal makes them change that approach, which obviously gives us hopefully a better chance of us scoring more goals.
So I think that sums him up, because if you think about that Brighton game, of course, he was excellent in that, but the next game he was absolutely awful at Forest away, and that was in the game after. That just sums up his season, really.
Yeah. So that's interesting from Kyle. What shall I give him? I'm going to stick with a 7 because that's where I am. Oscar Bob. Now, he didn't play enough to give a mark to, but I think for me, promising season.
Yeah, I mean, I give it. He's got almost 7 out of 10 for me. He's one of because he only started 2 games. He was subbed on 12 times.
Yeah,
and of course, I think he might be the new Jack Grealish. He might just be there to do what Pep asked him to do for me. Yeah. He might lose a bit of that flamboyance that he's obviously got, but he's got a bit more skill. I think a little bit more skill on the ball and a bit more vision. Certainly a bit more vision than Jack, but. Yeah, not enough to sort of say, oh, fantastic, but he's not going anywhere, is he?
No, he's 20 years old. He'll be 21 in July. I think he's had a good season. Not played a lot. I think overall, I'm looking at his stats. He featured 14 times in the Premier League, but how many starts did he get? 2.
2.
Yeah. So most of the time he's coming on late in the game. But you cannot forget him for that goal against Newcastle. That was class. So he's shown us what he's got. He's shown us a few times what he's got in, little bits and pieces. So I think a good season for him. KDB, obviously, like you said, he missed 5 months of the season, but I think he's done really well since he's been back. I mean, there's some games he just drifts through them. Yeah, and he doesn't really do much. Yeah. And other games, he throttles the opponent. In some games, like that Newcastle game when he came back, there's a few games. And he's got a lot of assists. Was it 10 assists this season?
Yeah.
So I've got to give him 7.5.
Yeah, well, I've only got 2 players who were rated over 7 for over all the games. Of course, KDB started 15 games, so just about made it onto my list. And he got a 7 out of 10. There's only one guy who got more than him.
Yeah, I wonder who that is.
No spoiler alert, mate. It's a bit obvious, I think, this year.
I know how much you love Doku, mate. I know. So Jeremy, Jack Daniels, Jeremy Doku. I thought, especially the first half of the season until he got injured, he was having a cracking season.
That was the turning point when he got injured. He started. He was okay, but obviously it sort of knocked him back a bit.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, he's another young player, so all sorts of things could be going through his head. I think he.
3 goals, 9 assists. I think for the season. I think in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think he's 21, so he's 22 next week.
You'll want to improve on that next year. Want more goals, more assists next year.
Oh, yeah. See, the thing is, the first part of the season, I thought he was making so many good decisions. It's just like he knew instinctively when to pass the ball, when to go for a dribble, when to shoot. And then he got injury. And maybe sometimes it can, you can look, because you've got time on the sidelines, you can listen a bit more to what people have been saying about you. And we're all raving about him. And sometimes that can go to your head. So for me, since then, he had some poor games where that's it. From being an almost automatic first choice starter, he was on the bench fighting again with Grealish. So, but he came, I think overall at the end of the season, he's come good. For a first season, I think he's done well. I'm going to give him a 7.5. I think he's done well for a first season. Obviously, can get better, and he's a young kid, so that
very nearly hit a 7 for me, just short of 7.
Well, it bodes well for the future, all these kids, because I'm doing it in alphabetical order. I'm going to bring up the fella that I think is top of your list, and that's Phil Foden. Phil
tremendous, tremendous season.
Yeah,
I think the fact that KDB went missing, of course, with the injury, I think it was a do or die for Phil Foden as far as whether it was important to Manchester City, even though we thought he was, to prove it. And I think he did that. I think he had 6 or 7 man of the matches for me over the season. Just super. What was it 27 overall goals and assists, 19 goals, 8 assists, 27. Just outstanding, mate. I can't, few and far between bad games. He did have weak performances. The 2-1 loss at Wolves, but we were all crap that day. The 2-2 draw at home with Palace, but we were all pretty bobbins that day as well. And of course, he wasn't very good in the 0-0 draw with Arsenal. But that's it. The rest of it, quality.
Yeah. As you say, there are a few quiet games, but we needed someone to step up. And I think generally this season he has stepped up. I mean, the way he lit the blue touch paper on Sunday against West Ham, that just epitomises what he's done this season. He scored about 5 or 6 goals from the edge of the box, and they've all been stunners. So yeah, I think he's had a great season. What mark did you give him? You must have given him an 8.
No, well, you know me. I mean, as I said, don't forget this is over a big season, so it's probably not as high as it would be generally. But he ended up with just over 7.1.
I'm going to give him 8.5.
Manchester Evening News was just 7.2, so there's not a lot. But as you say, an averaged out, it's different.
Jack, Super Jack.
If you said to me now, Phil Ford, I would have said, 8.5 out of 10, something like that. 8, at least 8 out of 10. But
yeah. What about Jack? Jack.
Yeah, another bit of a disappointment. I mean, I think he's being positive about it, but it was a disappointing season. Just 10 starts in the league, I think it is. Let me just get this up. 10 sub appearances, which is pretty feeble, really, isn't it? And I'll be honest with you, when he did play, he didn't let us down. He very rarely had a horrible game. He very rarely got anything less than a 6. Consistency was there. He just didn't get many opportunities.
I think in the first half of the season, obviously with the form of Doku, Jack didn't have a chance. It's as simple as that. And then obviously you had a chance when Doku was injured, but then KDB came back. And it just makes it much more difficult to get into that side. We saw Joshua Carvalho playing as a left winger to help with the balance of the side. So yeah, I think it's disappointing. I think Jack will want to and will need to step up.
I think Pep will be disappointed, but not only because I think he would have wanted to play him more. Because he's not letting down. He didn't let us down. Didn't let the fans down. Anybody down. But as you say, with those other players coming into it, he just he's the sort of player you think if they got a decent offer, would they be willing to let him go?
I'd let him go, but that's a story for another day. 6.5 for me. That's probably going to be one of my lowest, just because he didn't feature enough. He didn't do enough to stay in that side.
Well, he actually did all right with me. He got 6.8, so just under 7. He got a 7 for the Manchester Evening News as well. So they agreed that he had when he played, it was good.
Mateo Kovacic.
Yeah, funny one, isn't he? Again, he's a bit like Doku to some extent, as in his performances. He started on fire, didn't he? Yeah. I remember raving over him, weren't we, in the early days? He started 18 games and he came on a sub in 12, which is more than I sort of remember. But yeah, no assists that I can remember. in the season, which for a midfielder, I know he's more defensive, but that's still a bit of a disappointment. No assists. I've got him down as no assists. I've not verified that, but I've got him down there. But I thought the second half of the season, he became more comfortable, and it's only his first season, so that's probably a good sign.
Yeah. No, I think overall he's done well. It was disappointing early in the season when Rodri was away that he didn't step up. The team didn't step up, and we were losing games.
He's worked well with Rodri, hasn't he? That double pivot's worked all right. Yeah. I give him a 6.5, about 6.5 for the season.
I'm going to give him a 7, partly because it's his first season. And Pep wasn't sure how to utilise him. I think he does know now. Moving on to Mateus Nunes.
I tell you what, he loves it, doesn't he? He's enjoying it. Let's put it this way: he's enjoying himself.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he loved the league win. Of course, he did. He started 6 games, which is not many, is it? He came on as brief sub appearances in another 10, but there were a couple of 2 or 3 uninspiring appearances, of course, where he never really got going.
Yeah,
I think his best game was his full debut, actually, when we beat Forest in late September. But he also had an assist in the game. So again, I don't think he pulled up any trees, but
no.
He's happy. Hey, he's happy. I'm happy because he's done reasonably what Pep has asked for him.
Yeah.
But he's never really got going. Has never been really a good chance at that. I still sticks in my mind how he played at Wolves in that game. That when we lost our first game, I thought he was our best player till Pep.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And I just that for me showed his character to play against his old team, get treated as he was, as you'd expect from by the own fans, and really for me played very, very well. Not everyone agreed. Some people didn't have him. I thought he played real, being there watching him. I watched him closely because he was near me most of the game up our side of the pitch. So tremendous. It's got to be possibilities, but he's not really had the chance this season.
Yeah. I've got him down as a feature in 17 league games. He played 7 times in the Champions League, 28 games overall.
That's not bad, is it, really? Considering.
Yeah.
I give him just 6.25. I give him just near a 6.5, but 6.25, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played enough to give him a proper rating. But there are times when I've watched him and I thought, wow, he's got such acceleration. And he reminded me of Yaya Toure at times, the way he can just slalom past midfielders, and leave them for dead.
You never see him in the same room, do you? Him and Yaya.
Is it something we should know? They're not telling us. But look, he's young. He's still young. I mean, do you know how old he is? I'll ask you this now. How old is Nunes?
I do know it because I've got it written down somewhere, but go on.
He's 25. He'll be 26 in August.
Yeah.
So he's still got lots ahead of him. I think his first season, didn't play much. He'll get a 6.5 from me. I'm not tight. I'm not going to bother with Calvin Phillips. Rodri.
Up and down. Let's all talk about Rodri.
Up and down.
I still want to look at my ratings. I still think I must be cruel on Rodri because I always seem to have him less than the Manchester Evening News, although the very generous Mr. Bukowski these days. But he did make me top 5, so it couldn't have been that bad, could it? Just under 7 from me. No shocks. I thought he might be higher than that rating. I thought he might get 7+, but I just thought consistency again. I couldn't find a poor game. There's odd games where he made errors. Of course, there was where he passed passed it to the wrong person. But I couldn't find anything wrong with it, any negatives, because I try to look for negatives and positives. Just a high level of consistency. Brilliant. I mean, just under 7 for me in my scores. It puts him in the top 5. Again, what we expect, I suppose, from Rodgers, isn't it? And he only missed 4 games.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the games he missed because of his own stupidity, getting sent off.
Yeah, well, that was the low point. He didn't have a poor performance. It was just the fact of getting himself sent off was the sort of low point. I don't think he was played that badly till then, but that obviously knocked him down on the scores because obviously he got sent off like an idiot.
Yeah, you also got to give him credit because, he's gone through the league season. He's not been beat yet. So it just shows how important he is, even when he doesn't play so well. He's had some great performances.
And the climax of the season, of course, he stepped up when we needed him to as well.
Absolutely. Take a note, Mr. Haaland. We'll come on to you in a sec. So I'm going to give him 7.5.
Oh, I forgot we haven't mentioned him.
Bernardo Silva.
Oh, well.
What
last season, mate? Is it his last season?
I hope not. I
tell you what, even though you would ask me now, I would say he's had a bit of a laid back, less obvious season, but he's third in my rate. He's come third, just under 7. Absolutely brilliant, but has not, and he's done what he's been asked. I think Pep's relies on him to do certain jobs this season, the same way Grealish used to do for Pep, which he's not had to do. He's not had him doing. I think he's asked Bernardo to do those jobs, which meant for me he's not been as obvious because he's been doing what Pep's told him to do, and I thought it's been outstanding, but in a less obvious way perhaps than other seasons.
No, I think it's been, overall I've been happy with what I've seen. When he's allowed to wander, given a bit of a free rein, I think that's when he shows us his qualities. The fact he can go out on the right wing, go down the wing, cut inside, play in the middle. I like that free rein kind of thing. We talked about that before when Phil Foden's got a free rein, and he looks better when he's got that license to thrill. So I like Bernardo overall this season. I hope it's not his last season, because when we lost Laporte, Mahrez last summer, a couple more, Gundogan, and I said we've lost a lot of experience. Gundogan was playing all the games, and yes, Mahrez has been not featuring for the last few months as a starter, and Laporte hardly featured at all. We were losing experience. So I wouldn't want Bernardo to leave and take his experience. I wouldn't want, and if you do lose a senior player, let's say we lose Edison, I wouldn't want to lose Bernardo as well. I want to keep as many senior players as possible, excuse me, to give us the best chance for the 5th title. So I'm going to give him a 7.5.
You just can't replace. I mean, he is just irreplaceable. You can't do like for like. There's nothing. No one can do a like for like with Bernardo. You can't do it.
There's no one there. Julian Alvarez or Julian Alvarez. Julian. What do you reckon? Up and down? Oh, it was up and then down.
Up there. I mean, he was tremendous, wasn't he? He got off to a crack. I'm trying to find him on my list now. Keep going up and up and up here. It must be near the bottom. I can't even find the bugger now. I mean, of the 14 who played a minimum of 15 Premier League games, he was bottom, believe it or not, of the 14, averaging about 6 1/4. And that was a surprise to me. If you'd asked me now, I was surprised. But Pep had a lot of faith in him, didn't he? He started 31 games and came on in 5 others. So at 36 of the 38 games, he made an appearance.
Yeah.
And he played the first 25 Premier League games.
Yeah.
And that was because Pep kept putting him in there, even though he started, after a great start, he seemed to start missing things and not doing the assists, etc. And he had games he probably would like to forget. Villa away, but then again, a lot of City players probably did as well. But he just sort of went, and then all of a sudden he found it again towards the end of the season. He found that early season form again, and showed us why we think he's a cracking player. Yeah,
you probably wouldn't believe across the season, across all competitions, he scored 18 goals and he got 12 assists. That's actually not a bad return. He got a lot of goals in the Champions League. He got 5 goals there, 2 assists in 7 games. Club World Cup, got 2 goals and an assist. He was instrumental, you could argue, in us winning that. I think he's had it ended up for me disappointing because of the way he started. Pep was going to him all the time. Now we've got options where he just, which is good. If you're not delivering, you're not playing. which is what you want. Got to
Mm.
deliver to keep your place. He's only 24. He's a winner.
Do you think he's happy?
No,
Very hard to tell with him, isn't it?
no, I don't think he is, because he's not playing in his favourite position. And if there's a choice between him and Haaland, he's number 2.
Yeah.
Is he going to leave? I don't think so. It's too soon. He's 24. He's got, he's a winner. He's winning everything he touches at the moment. So, no, I think he can do better, be more consistent, but he works hard, and that's something that Pep likes from him. So I'm going to give him a 7. He's had a decent season. And your big lummox. We finished with your big lummox. Erling Haaland.
Well, a cracking season, mate. You can't Golden Boot. You can't quibble about Golden Boot. I was surprised he started 29 games. In fairness, I thought he was injured for about a third of this, but he wasn't. He's only injured for 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
A couple of sub appearances. He's over 6.5. He did all right. I think he himself has already said, hasn't he, that he's not happy with the season generally, how he's performed. I think he's already said that, words to that effect. And I think we probably agree with that, because he's not scored in the big games, hasn't he? He's not done it in the big games. That's the problem.
Has he been found out by the big teams?
We've got a big game coming up this week, mate. If he scores 3 or 4 in that, I'll be quite happy, even though it's...
Yeah. But no, seriously, has he been... Do you think he's been found out by the better teams?
Not really. I don't think he's changed that much. He's obviously I don't think he's improved particularly.
Yeah.
I think we've seen signs of his heading improving slightly, because his dad had a word with him after I told him. So his dad had a word with him about that. So that's all right. I think his finishing's deteriorated a little bit this season. I don't think he's not shown. He had bad misses last year, but I think he's surpassed himself this year with some of his. And I think he has to work a bit harder. I really do think he has to do a little bit more.
Totally agree. His touch isn't good enough. I'm sorry about that. When he's got his back to goal and he's dropping a bit deeper to link up play and to drag the defender out, his touch ain't good enough. Yes, he might have 2 men around him, but he loses the ball too often for me. That's not his thing. It's not. But what surprises me and frustrates me, he's a big chap. Going in on goal, he uses his strength, his power, his height, everything. He's immense. But holding up the ball, he gets bounced around. He gets pushed about and knocked off the ball. Can't control it well enough. That's a big area that he needs to improve his game. And the other area, I said it all season long. I said it last season. People laugh at me. He's not clinical enough. I'm sorry. He had 3 chances against West Ham on Sunday, in the first half, I think, that he should have scored. He has to be scoring 2 of those 3 chances. And even then, you'd say he missed a sitter. So sometimes I think he tries the spectacular a bit too much, because it's like, you set the standard last season with some spectacular goals, unusual goals, and now you're trying to surpass them. I just want you to score, mate. I don't care.
Spectacular's all right if it requires it. Spectacular isn't when it can be done easier. What's the point?
Yeah.
It's a waste.
So it's disappointing, because I think, look, he scored 27 league goals in 31 games, and we're disappointed. He should have got, in my opinion, 35 in 31, because he's missed so many good chances. I think his conversion rate has dropped a little from last season, which is disappointing, because I'll say it again, you take away the penalties. How many penalties? Get 9 or 10 penalties, and then you're thinking, actually, you got 16 or 17 goals in 31 games. Penalties always disguise how good someone's done, and I just think he's missed it.
When you consider probably Pep's had to make a hell of a lot of changes to his style to adapt to him.
Yeah,
he's got to be repaying him a bit better, and I'm not sure he'll work on that and do it.
He'll have to. As I said, speak to Mr. Rodri, and he's your man. Right, mate, that's gone on a bit longer than I thought. But that's our review.
Comprehensive, very comprehensive.
Very comprehensive. We'll do the other section of who should stay and who should go at another time. But thanks for joining us, guys. Hope you've enjoyed that. And we'll keep on building up, hopefully, and get another couple of videos out this week before the biggie, the FA Cup final on Saturday. when we see if we can do those dirty rags from across the city. And yeah, we did a preview yesterday, so it's out at the moment. If you want to go and check that out, you can check out Bernard's channel, which is the Citizen channel. Lots of history stuff, because Bernard's got lots of history. And some TV stuff as well. You can't hide it, mate. Can't hide it. We're getting on. Can't hide it.
I'm glad you said we then.
Yeah, we as well, mate.
Royal we.
The royal we. No, we are getting on a bit, but we're still loving our footy, still enjoying it. Thanks a lot, mate. You take care, and we'll see you around Blues.